Today is Friday the 20th of March, the last day of school for all the school kids in Scotland and the whole of the UK. I'm just going to record a long video of my drive because I've still got work to do. I've still got 3 houses to take photos of. Don't know how useful that's going to be, but I'm going to do a drive-in, so a long video with the radio on, for historical measures, to remember what the news was saying at this time during this outbreak, and I'll give you my own narrations of the road conditions and the shops and what's actually happening all over the place. So here we are, just leaving a little village called Kirkliston, and normally there's traffic all the way up to the junction, all the way up past here, so straight away this is rush hour. There's a lot less cars, so let's get a long shoot now. Okay, going with the radio on so we can hear.
Those units are assessments that would have been done under conditions, and in the current situation, ironically, would have probably formed at least part of what was sent off as evidence of pupil achievement. Now,
so talking about school exams at the moment.
But it would have been something. So the units thing's a wee bit iffy. There's also, I think, a point worth raising here about this thing about schools should keep working with students, and obviously ideally that's...
Somebody's still out jogging?
Yeah, it's, if any of mine are listening, I'm working on stuff for you just now, and we're going to do all we can over the next few weeks, but there is a bit of a concern, and I must say this morning, and I haven't been able to fully verify yet, this morning I was sent an email that's going out from one school saying that they want their S4, 5 and 6 to keep going into school so that the school can be working on coursework and generating evidence. If some schools are doing that and others aren't, it's going to be massively unfair. So if you've got about 100 classes coming in to work on, right, well, let's work on your folio, let's not join it for a few weeks, let's work on that intensively for a few weeks, but other schools aren't managing. That would be an issue, so we're going to have to be very, very, very clear quite quickly, and then preferably by Monday, exactly what the scenario is and what kind of support should be available and what schools we shouldn't be doing.
Sure. James, stay with me. I'm going to come back to you in just a minute. James McEnany is a lecturer, and we will have more information from the SQA about all of this on the text AJ. This is the right call. Anyone who thinks opposite isn't seeing the big picture. This is a public health emergency. It's being done for the greater good, and the sooner people start self-isolating, the better the result. If you're a teacher this morning, if you're a parent with children who have been facing exams, or if you're a young person off school already, what's your reaction to the cancellation for the first time ever in Scotland of the exams? 80295 to text us.
Wow, looking at the motorway which I'm about to join, and we were very, very quiet.
Morning, Cherie.
Morning.
Morning. So, what stage are you at?
I'm currently in school, and it is my last day today before we go into self-quarantine, and I'm doing hires.
You should have been doing your hires in just a few weeks' time. So how do you feel about the cancellation of them?
So Tesco's on the left here. The shelves are looking a little bit barren at the moment, and they've now started to do it so that for older people, pensioners, they get the first hour of shopping before everybody else goes in and buys everything.
And to be getting our predicted grades based off our prelims, everybody is either really, really happy or heartbroken and crying.
But
so the
Tesco's car park is absolutely rammed already. 9 o'clock in the morning.
Grades from the teachers who know you and know what you're kind of capable of as well. Does that reassure you?
Not really, because we don't know what coursework we need to hand in. We've been given past papers and that to try and do to bump our grades up, but we don't know exactly.
Interesting car transport in front of us, just all police cars on that. Not seen that before, if that means anything.
Just waiting to see what the decision was.
Yeah.
And for you, what could have been an alternative? Trying to postpone this to some point in the future? The problem is no one knows how long any of this is going to last.
Yeah, that's the problem. We were really, a lot of us were hoping for a postpone because we didn't not want to do the exams because, of course, people are going to try harder on their exams. And for the people who need straight A's and got B's in their prelim, they're not going to do as well as they hoped they would have done. So a lot of us would want the exam to be postponed rather than cancelled.
Our listeners are getting in touch this morning, Sherry. Chris makes a good point here. Chris on Facebook. How could children sit exams with what's going on? Their heads will be as frazzled by all this as the rest of us. Does he have a point?
Well, our school said that if the exams do go ahead, they would split us up into rooms and make sure the seats were really far apart, which I think is a decent idea because it saves us not getting the grades.
Yeah, they just look like they're all brand new police cars.
That we actually
Don't know if that's
the right grades
specific of anything.
For the unis we want into. And if we just spread the seats really far apart and make sure we're all split up into different classrooms to sit the exam with different invigilators, then I feel like it would be a reasonable idea.
So that's the physical side of it, but what about the mental side of it?
You know, let's see what's happening on LBC.
Going to really assess what factors are working to contain the infection, what hasn't worked, what went wrong, and where we can really bridge the gap. So yes, communication, even at the virology community, is really great at great level. As been hinted before, I'm sure government is also having communication between different stakeholders and really translate the information. Yes,
I can confirm that because the health secretary has told us that in the previous hour. Let's get another one from the text, tweets and emails. Jamie in Leicester, there seems to be conflicting advice about pregnant women. What is the truth? I'll go to the doctor first and then to the virologist. Dr. Sahota, what would you tell your patients on this if a pregnant woman presented herself?
Well, if she's pregnant, then I think she does come in the higher risk group. That means that she must, if she has any symptoms, right, she must isolate herself from them. But of course, if you are pregnant, I don't know what the evidence is. Of course, Dr. Monet will tell us. I don't know what the evidence is of the transfer between mother to child, but I think there has been one child born, which I'm aware of, who has got COVID-19 already in this country. But Dr. Monet maybe will be better answer time.
Dr. Monet, what do the virologists take on this? Is there a danger to a pregnant woman? Sorry.
At the moment, we have a couple of cases only where a pregnant woman was identified positive for COVID-19 and the newborn baby also was positive. However, there was any complication with the delivery or the baby afterward. So all the precaution that government is giving so far is just precautionary and a cautionary notes. There is no risk associated otherwise, but follow the guideline that pregnant women are on the vulnerable group.
Rukhshana is in Surrey. Your question, Rukhshana, morning to you.
Yes, hi, good morning, Nick. I wonder if you can help. What it is my son, who is 13 years old, he has extreme eczema. He has allergies galore, mainly food and air allergens, where when he steps outside, if there's a lot of birch pollen that affects him, grass that affects him. So he's basically one of those children. He also has on and off MRSA symptoms where, it comes back and forth. So I just wondered, I have been keeping him in the house. But
so normally, in terms of traffic, on a work day, sometimes the traffic is backed up to here, easily. This junction, going off to Glasgow to the right or into Edinburgh straight ahead. There's traffic, oh my goodness, it's amazing. There's traffic lights up in front where there's usually tailbacks all the way back easily to here every day, and it would take about 20 minutes to get from that little split the road down to the traffic lights, maybe 20 even more minutes further down here.
So, more clues to our two experts in just a moment, such as how long is the virus live or alive on food? That's after the 9:15 LBC News headlines. Thomas Watts.
The government's held talks with business leaders to discuss plans for an emergency subsidy package in an attempt to protect millions of jobs through the coronavirus pandemic. More than 65,000 retired doctors and nurses have been called on to return to work through the crisis. And the government has released a list of all the essential staff whose children will continue to go to school during the outbreak. Schools across the country will close to all other pupils at the end of today's lessons. Cloudy in the south with a few spots of rain, sunny spells further north and a high.
So this is the traffic lights, which normally they're backed up to. They normally just go green for about 15 seconds and everyone bombs it through here. They're not even on just now, clearly because there's not enough traffic. It's normally to let the people coming in from the left here, who are coming in from South Queensferry or Dalmeny, that junction there. But usually, even after you've joined it here, during rush hour, the traffic is usually sometimes backed up to about this blue sign again. So you just like vomit and then you're back into traffic. So just now, very easy driving into town.
About the first ever cancellation of exams in Scotland. It's a huge step, but maybe it was the only step in the circumstances left open. Here's what John Swinney had to say yesterday. In the midst of 2 world wars, the exams went ahead. It's a measure of the gravity of the challenge we now face, that the exams will not go ahead this year. I'm aware of how significant a step this is. Indeed, it's an unprecedented one.
Sign saying queues ahead. Be interested to see what queues there are.
Is our overriding priority here. How do you feel about the cancellation of exams in Scotland? 08085 92 95 00 or 80295 to text. 9:18 Friday morning. It's BBC Radio Scotland.
When it comes to music, really, I just go back.
The fourth item per single transaction in descending price order will be deducted. Offer ends 30th of March, subject to...
David Bowie, Rod Stewart and all the greats, but also, you know, we play lots of newer bands.
Okay, so this is normally the second traffic lights which we're all queued up against. These ones just seem to be staying on green. They are on, but they're not changing, certainly, from what I've seen. Sometimes there's a police car just down at this junction, or just down past this drop here, doing speed checks. No police today.
Turned in just 12 weeks.
I'm very confident that we'll beat the coronavirus. I think we can turn the tide within the next 12 weeks, but it depends on collective, resolute action.
Will you take that action? Are you prepared to do what it takes to turn the tide on coronavirus? Earlier in the week, Claire, who called in to Cage on the phone and said it's a problem.
My 94-year-old father-in-law has strong views on many things, and one of them is that he doesn't believe coronavirus. He's refusing to wash his hands, he's certainly not following any guidelines.
And it didn't go down with Grace well either, who's in her 70s.
I had 2 very different days at the weekend. We were supposed to be going to see Elaine C. Smith in the play. She was appearing in Edinburgh, and I was looking forward to it enormously. But I was bullied into not going by my stepfamily. And
what are you seeing where you are? Are pubs still full at the end of the road? Do you think people are really listening to the advice and understanding how serious it is? And are you having conversations across the generations about this? Have you had difficult conversations with friends and family who are not taking the advice seriously, who are coming too close to you, who still think this can be business as usual? 08085 92 95 00 or 80295 to text us.
Get in touch with BBC Radio Scotland.
So again, this road is normally just jam-packed. So there are still quite a few cars on the road, but this is like a mid-Sunday kind of level of traffic, not a rush hour school day, work day level. Like, I haven't actually had to stop yet. This has never happened before. All lights are green.
The exams are cancelled in Scotland. A huge decision for the Scottish Government, and a very difficult one for them to take, but perhaps the only one in the circumstances. John Swinney said that the protection of life has to be the overriding priority. He also said when he stood up to announce it, I cannot think about the end of June. I've barely got until the end of Thursday. So if you're a teacher, if you're a parent, if you are a pupil this morning, last day of school for many already out of school, how do you feel about the decision to cancel exams in Scotland? And what do you think it's going to mean for you? Are you confident you'll get the grade that you want? Are you ready to do some home education as a parent, as a child? What guidance and support are you getting at the moment? 80295 to text us, or 08085 92 95 00 to give us a call. Noreen Boyle is a mum, parent of 4, I think, who are all kind of at that stage in the school system. Noreen, aren't they?
Not quite, no. I only have my youngest left at school, who's currently in 5th year.
Wow, still haven't stopped. Amazing.
I have got 2 who are, one who's at university and one who's at college, who are both affected by the same obviously predicament. But I only have one who's in a position where his exam's been cancelled so far.
What do you think of the decision that you heard about yesterday?
I think it's probably the only decision that is deliverable. I think that there is no right, there is no wrong in this. We have no idea. We've never been in times like this before. The focus of the country must be on social isolation. It must be on health and the stopping preventing this horrible disease. So I think probably it's the only viable option. I think if they were to move forward and schedule the exams, even schedule them in classrooms instead of big halls and space them out and everything. But the majority of the invigilators are retired people. I don't know if we could bring retired people into the children. The young people generally have a much better immune system and can all be carrying and all not displaying any symptoms of this disease and can all be passing it on. So I don't think it's the right thing for our younger people and our older people to be mixing in great numbers. So I don't know what the options were. I think what's interesting and what's of concern to us really is how they are going to arrive at the figures that they need to arrive at, the grades that they're going to arrive at, because as your young person who was on earlier said, prelims are not indicative of exams. They're absolutely not. Often the prelims take place at a time when the coursework has not been completed anyway, so they're not even a result of the entire curriculum. And there's so much focus, which is right, which is absolutely right. There's so much focus on handing in units, on practical assessments, on assignments that all, building folios that all take a proportion of the grades as well. So I'd be really interested to see it. I mean, they're between a rock and a hard place. I don't know how they're going to do this. And I think that pupils that are perhaps gone on to an apprenticeship or gone on to further education who have unconditional offers, that's excellent, that's good, they shouldn't feel so badly affected. But pupils that are relying on grades to actually know whether or not they're going to get into university or get taken on an apprenticeship must be terribly stressed and must wonder what's going to happen.
I think anybody who thinks they're going to be going on to an apprenticeship in this current climate may be a little bit deluded. The idea of an apprenticeship sounds amazing. It sounded amazing about 2 weeks ago. Now it seems completely unrealistic.
1 year where I ended up sitting my higher maths in the same year as my sister, and there was a problem with the paper, and one question was deemed impossible. And the results went, skewish as a result. And people used to say, oh yeah, but that was that year, wasn't it? They just gave everybody A's. And there are, and even the last few years, they've talked about, there was an impossible question in this, and they gave everybody B's. And so I was trying to explain to my son last night that, an A doesn't always have to mean 70% above, and a B doesn't always have to, but they'll skew it to take in the demographic and to take in all the conditions of all the people that have sat the exam. So really, they'll have to design not only how they come up with the grades, but then how the grades are seen and how. I'm not making myself very clear.
So that's the first time I had to stop there.
It's not always a B kind of thing,
And the thing about, I remember as a parent myself, when prelims come around, you tell them to study, you tell them how important it is. But you were a kid at some stage, you went through prelims as well, and the foot is not on the pedal for prelims the way it is for exams.
Absolutely not. Yeah. So often I think I'm not saying it's the best way to do it, but I've seen before with my older children.
Let's hear what's happening on the other radio stations.
It may not be COVID-19, right? So she could have had a viral infection, which may have been a coronavirus, but I don't think it was COVID-19.
Okay, quick one from you on that, Dr. Mania.
Yeah, 4 out of 5 infected don't notice it, so you could be one of those.
Okay, Victor in Kingston upon Thames. You're on the radio. Your question, Victor.
Oh, thank you, Nick, for taking my calls. I just want to ask, how long does it take the virus to stay on objects like door handles, rails, and computer desktop?
Yes, I sense we might have touched this already on the aspect of newspapers and paper. Dr. Manier, again to you on this.
Yes, absolutely. It can stay up to a few hours, like 4-5 hours. So anytime you suspect that there has been some contamination, do wipe it up with any household disinfectant.
And what about, in a related question, Doctor, Davina in East London says, how long is it live on food?
That we precisely don't know because there's no such study conducted, but this is not a foodborne virus. So if it holds a risk, it would only be just lying on the surface. If you think that someone who delivered the food or you picked the food from someone who has a clinical sign or so, just wipe it up and it would be all fine.
I mean, my goodness, if ever you need to wash your fruit or vegetable before you eat it, it's now really, isn't it?
We are in an unprecedented situation.
Dr. Sahota, do you want to come in on this before I go on?
No, I think that's absolutely right. But the other thing I would say about surfaces, right? We keep coming, but I think Dr. Nate did say as a few hours, 3 days, right? It's really puts the emphasis on that when you touch anything or you come out, make sure you don't touch your mouth, your eyes, or your nose, and get home and wash your hands for 20 seconds before you touch anything else.
Naz in Ilford, you're through. What's your question, Naz?
Hello, I'm 22 and I take an immunosuppressant. My psoriasis, am I at increased risk?
Dr. Sahota.
What's the drug you take? I didn't hear that.
Cyclosporin.
Cyclosporin, yes. It's immunosuppressant. I mean, well, you obviously are a high risk group because your immune level is suppressed, and social isolation is very, very important for you. And so you are at a high risk group. Yes, you are.
All right, look after yourself.
My goodness, this road. How is this possible? There's nobody on this road in front of me. This is jammed. Normally there's people honking and peeping trying to get past traffic to go down to the left up here. And just now it's empty in rush hour.
Account for the handles of the doors, you know, and all of the usual stuff.
Let's put that to Dr. Manir. Does chlorine kill the virus? But what about, of course, the changing rooms and the handles and everything else? Dr. Manir?
Precisely. Any swimming pool, if they are well maintained with chlorine, it would completely kill the virus. Virus is very susceptible to this chlorine. But the risk for contaminated surfaces and changing room and so on, that is always there. So if you think that there is some chance for contamination, wipe it up before you touch. And if you have any chances to contaminate it, clean it before you leave.
Gerald, here's the drill. You arrive, you wash your hands for 20 seconds singing God Save the Queen. You then change, you wash your hands again, you hold the door open, wash your hands again and jump straight in the pool and you'll be just fine.
I know.
Look after...
Spain have closed their pools.
Oh, have they? Oh, I didn't know that. Well, look after yourself, as they say, wash your hands is what we do. Good luck, be healthy, thank you. Winston in Lee, the last question. Winston, go ahead, this is an interesting one. Your question, Winston, good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Hello,
my question is, can the virus be transferred between humans and animals, i.e. pets?
Yes, indeed, cats, dogs, rabbits. To the virologist, Dr. Manir.
We don't know.
The simple answer is no.
All right.
That's what I like, a simple answer. Okay. So dogs don't catch it, Dr. Manir? No. Dr. Manir?
Sorry, say again?
So dogs aren't catching this disease?
No, dogs are not catching disease. There has been only one report. Pardon me. So they say that, by the way, I cough in my bent knee now.
In your bent knee? You bent arm, surely. If you cough into your knee, that's a hell of a trick. How do you do, especially if you were sitting. Dr. Manir, I'll leave you to get... Well, you're not ill, but thank you, and thank you for your time. Dr. Mohammed Manir, lecturer molecular virology.
Okay, this is actually creeping me out, this drive-in. So again, this is a lot of businesses on the left and right here, a lot of accountancies, a lot of recruitment companies, business advisors, chartered accountants, and normally there's nowhere to park here. So it looks like there's still some people driving in, but you can see a lot of them with their blinds down. All the front doors, a lot of them, the front doors would have been open, but a lot of them are still closed and a lot of blinds down because they're not wanting the sun to hit their screens while nobody's in there. But yeah, pretty quiet. Again, this is normally rammed, as in you cannot find a parking space.
Do a lot of your conversation.
Relief of who are you on a Friday morning?
Now going around here, this takes us towards Haymarket. Haymarket train station is a wee bit off to the right. And again, this is normally a traffic jam area because we've got cars coming in from town, we've got just lots of traffic going on. But we've also got the trams that go... Oh, actually, that's the point. I don't know if the trams are going. We might see a tram going past us if they're running, but at the moment, I haven't seen it. I think I can hear them. Nope, that's a bus.
Right, Friday morning with me, Stephen Jardine. I'm phoning in this morning, which is on the subject of the cancellation of exams in Scotland for the first time ever since 1888, when the modern school system was established. Cancelled exams in Scotland. John Swinney stood up to announce it yesterday and said, I can't think about the end of June. I barely got to the end of Thursday. These are unprecedented times, he told the Scottish Parliament. The protection of life has got to be our overriding priority. So many questions for parents in the aftermath of this, and for pupils as well, about how they will now be judged and graded, and
after a divorce,
exams in Scotland. 08085 92 95 00 is the number to call, or you can text us 80295. Right, Harry in Motherwell's coming up, so is Tom in Edinburgh. Let's start with Graham in Glasgow first this morning. Morning, Graham.
Good morning, how are you doing?
Morning, I'm fine. What do you want to say?
Well, basically, I just think that there's a lot of chat between teachers just now, and the big thing for them seems to be that some kids, we're saying about kids coming back in to finish their senior work. Again, we're bringing in half the school maybe in, and we're creating this situation where teachers and staff are mixing again. And that seems to be going against the point of closing the school. So for me, you may get some kids coming in, you may get some kids who don't want to come in, and you may get some kids who can't come in. That's going to create disadvantage right across the board.
So it's not a level playing field. Yeah.
Not a level playing field. It has to be a binary. It's going to be the schools are shut or the schools are open. But they're not going to open the schools. So the schools have to be shut. Now, this question of assessment and saying, right, okay, let's look at it. Now, there are various pieces of work on the go.
So on the left is the EICC, Edinburgh International Conference Centre. Obviously, they've closed up. Nobody's doing any conferencing. On the right, we've got RBS. Further up on the left, we've got Scottish Widows. I think it's still Scottish Widows. We've got a couple of gyms around here. I think the gyms are closed as well. It looks, so the RBS on the, is it RBS? Maybe it's banks. It's a big bank, that's for sure. The investment side. I'm seeing some lights on the inside. Some people going to the co-op shop there. Delivery men still bringing stuff. This is crazy. Scottish Widows. Oh, that's Scottish Widows on the right. What's on the left? Aberdeen Standard on the left. Okay, got mixed up there. But yeah, this is normally gridlock around here, and I've got a clear path all the way into the Grass Market. So the Grass Market, a big tourist destination in Edinburgh. Lots of cute little pubs and stuff. So we'll see what that looks like in a minute. Down here on the right, we've got an Odeon Cinema. That's closed. On the left, we've got Pronto. That doesn't look open. Lebowski's, the pub. Well, it's 9 in the morning, so that's not going to be open. But yeah, Odeon Cinema on the right, closed. Nobody. Well, there's one person at the counter there for Pret, and yeah, pretty quick.
How much, as a teacher, as a secondary teacher yourself in Glasgow, how much anxiety are you picking up from the young people who sit in front of you?
To be fair, in my school, not a lot, but I do accept there is some. There is definitely some people who are very, very anxious. At a personal level, I've not seen a great deal, but that doesn't matter. If one kid's anxious, that's one too many. So we have to deal with that. We have to reassure them. They have to understand that the teacher is going to do the best by them, and none of them are going to be disadvantaged by this. It's just as simple as that.
Okay, Edinburgh Castle up to the left. There's another conference centre on the right, Doubletree.
Let me read out some texts on this. Lynn, morning Lynn. I really feel for those hoping to head to college, unis, etc. Hope to get the practical and emotional help they need. I'm wondering what the position for final year higher further education students is. Not seen anything on that yet. Strange times for sure. Eileen says this decision, yes, the right one. Under the circumstances, how can the kids appropriately prepare and sit for exams Can you imagine the volume of appeals, starting more mental anguishing, etc.? Julian says, absolutely the right decision. If the pupils had sat the exams with the exposement of the virus, they'd be stressed, not able to perform at their best. We'd have possibly infected papers being sent into the exam system. There's another thought. And infecting others as well. Julian, thanks for your text this morning. 08085 92 95 0082.
Okay, so normally down this road there would be like a hub of activity. There'd be delivery vans, there'll be lots of cars, lots of vans, sometimes lorries as well, trying to get, well, we've got a lorry right in front of us, trying to get in, but and it would be packed full. Even on a sunny day like this, it would be full. And there's parking spaces everywhere. I am try to get in front of the bus. So I'm going to an area called the Lawn Market, which is just up ahead, but I need to figure out where exactly I'm going. So I'm just going to pull in here and figure out exactly where I'm going. Okay, so the bit I'm going to, the Lawn Market, is up here on the Royal Mile. Nowhere to actually park at it, but this is a very famous and tourist heavy part of Edinburgh. This is, I love the little street.
Schools across the country closed today, not expected to reopen until after the summer. Parents confronted with teaching their children at home are scouring listings for private help instead. Is that true?
Yeah, but the problem is that the agencies that we work for are not offering tuition business now. But because of the virus situation, they're only offering online provision. And a tutor who's listening to this programme should really be seriously considering offering online provision. I do. Most of the tutors I know, I'm actually work with STEM, and the teacher, Graham earlier, will understand what I'm talking about. We work with the schools as well during the normal course of events.
And Tom, how affordable is that though? You know, for families who maybe are, you know, so concerned about jobs, about mortgage payments.
Right, so first house I'm shooting on the left here, the Lawn Market 45 down there to the right. Clearly, even though there's no cars here, there's still nowhere to park because there's no parking spaces. These barriers are all for, well, they were for tourist controlling and traffic controlling during the Edinburgh Festival, which I doubt will be happening this year. So, got to find a parking space down Castle Terrace here. Edinburgh Castle, looking lovely today. And yeah, still literally nowhere to park. It's all for buses, permit holders only. I think I'm going to go back to that West Bow and get a parking space.
Good. We've got Harry in Motherwell back, teacher with 40 years experience. Sorry Harry, it was a bad line and we couldn't really hear you. So, yeah, you think this was the right decision in the circumstances?
It is the right decision, I think, because if the way this virus is spreading, you know, if you have mass people coming together, then it will spread, but it's very difficult. But as to the exams and results, that is a difficult one, but most schools, again, it depends on the secondary, it depends on the subject, because each subject has a different way of assessing things. Some subjects are a lot of evidence-based, and most teachers will know that at this stage in the game, they know the pupils. They've got to rely on the judgment of the staff, and the staff know the pupils. We know who's been bringing in and completing the work, who's doing the homework, who's preparing things. We know that.
Even when there's a pandemic going on, still parking wardens catching cars. I'll just give a little peep to anybody who was at that car, just so they know there's a parking warden there.
It's as simple as that. There are youngsters who might fall, but we know by this stage those who don't attend, who do not complete things in time, who won't turn up for exams and assessments. That is evidence. There's a lot of paperwork that's been put on schools in the last 10, 15, 20 years, and that's hard work for staff, but that is there. That is there in every secondary school now.
It's a difficult question to ask because I don't want to add to any of the anxiety surrounding this. But if teachers start to become ill as well as this, and we know we're not anywhere near the peak of this, if teachers, assessors start to become ill, how practical is it to really, really deliver a fair result for Scotland, children in Scotland this year?
Yeah, well, what I'm trying to say to you, Stephen, is that we know the children, we know the youngsters, we know that the predicted grades are already been put down in most secondary schools of what's expected of the youngsters that we teach. We're going to have to go by that this year. It's as simple as that.
I'm sure there was a parking space here earlier when I first came up.
But as to the exams I think are
right, now, even when there's a pandemic on, it's still impossible to find a parking space in Edinburgh!
It's as simple as that.
Harry, I'm going to be really cheeky here because you're a teacher with 40 years experience. I want to borrow you for the next couple of minutes. For parents who are sitting at home listening to this thinking, I've got to try and homeschool my...
James O'Brien. From Sweden to Portugal, other European workers know where they stand if their business is closed. Do you?
James O'Brien on LBC.
You switch.
Right, so sometimes there's a sneaky parking space down in the right here. So this is the back of the courts. So all this building work that's still going on. Yeah, come on, is there a parking space? No! What? Oh, wait, or here? Is that? No, that's permit holders only. What about here? Car park club permit only. This is insane! I'm trying to find a parking space. There's a lot of police. There must, oh, yes, at this time in just now, Alex Salmond, our ex First Minister, like Prime Minister, like President, he's in that court getting busted for sexual deviance, being a naughty boy with lots of women, not just one or two, but about 15, I think it was reported, somewhere around about that. But yeah, okay, clearly no parking spaces there, have to park miles away. And now I can't go down that Grassmarket Road or the Victoria Street down to Westbow. I need to still nowhere to park!
About the cancellation for the first time ever of exams in Scotland. E295 to text us, or 08085 92 95 00. That's the number. Sarah is called from Jordan Hill this morning in Glasgow. Morning, Sarah.
Morning.
Morning. Your daughter's caught up in this, isn't she?
Yeah, she is. She's in sixth form. What is that called? What is that called in Scotland? Sorry.
60th. Yeah, 60th.
Yes. Yeah.
And how's she?
She was really upset yesterday when I picked her up. She was in tears because they're testing her every day, and although her prelims, her grades were good enough.
Right. So do I try and go back up there again? No, it looks like there's no spaces. Right. I'm parking down here and walking up to my first shoot. Might take the camera with me. So yeah, that's what it's like driving into Edinburgh just now. Easy. So in terms of work, I've got a very nice house to shoot here. 451 flat something, Lawn Market, which faces out, apart from the dusty windows, faces out onto very quiet Edinburgh. Oh, oops. Ooh, secondary glazing going on there. Pianos, cool lighting, painted fireplace, nice hall, lots of books. I think this must have been an Airbnb property. Very fancy bed. That looks good. Lovely artwork in the place. Shiny kitchen. That's going to be tricky to shoot that, but looking nice. And it's got is it a bathroom? It's a bathroom. Nice. Nice shower. Chandelier in the bathroom. Just what you need. But yeah, lots of funky mirrors. Very cool. Very easy to get good shots of this one. With some challenging bits. Okay, first shoot complete. It's about 10:45. Got to drive kind of across town now to drop off the keys from that property and just see what the traffic like, and again listen to what the news is for the rest of the day, or during this time. Right.
There. Golf club full of older people who are just going about life as normal. What are you seeing in terms of older people are particularly at risk here? They're the ones that are being told to take this advice most seriously and act on it. What are you seeing?
Well, it's been a very challenging week, and what we're seeing is polar opposites of reactions. And
right, let's see. Ways to pay. You can make them most.
May have very poor spatial awareness or memory problems, poor personal hygiene, and social distancing is very difficult to get through to them. And there's no easy answer to that, because as you know, care in the community is being pulled back to the most essential. There are lots of people out there who cognitively are struggling to understand what the rules are, and there's no wonder about that, because even the most competent of people, even the most competent advice sources are giving mixed messages, because I see on the BBC website it's saying that the social distancing should be 2 metres apart with a very long broom, but in the World Health Organization the advice is 1 metre apart. And so, you know, it's sometimes it's very difficult to know exactly how to follow very competent advice when you're not sure which advice source to go with. And I would say that there are people of all ages. There's been some very emotional and very correct distress being voiced, but there are people of all ages making good and poor decisions. They're not all young and they're not all old, but not all advice that family members are giving to their older relatives is good advice. And I would say that bullying anybody is never ever on. I think we need to be having conversations about what our older relatives want and what their hopes and fears are, but fundamentally if people are being selfish or willfully endangering lives, then there will be sanctions. And I think, you know, if we are adults with capacity, we all have rights and responsibilities regardless of our age, and those are the conversations that we should be having.
It comes down to circumstances, doesn't it, Nicola? Because the particular circumstances of an older person may make it just very difficult for them to do what they are being told to do by a younger relative.
So this is me just crossing over the Royal Mile, Cannon Gate on the right, High Street on the left. Again, this is pretty much where all the tourists would be going up and down. That's like the main kind of tourist spot here. This being, is this, what's this? Is this, I forgot the name of the street. Johnson Terrace? No, not Johnson. Is it Johnson Terrace? Might be Johnson Terrace. Going around to the right there, that's the train station, Waverley train station, with the Balmoral Hotel up there to the right as well. And again, normally on a work day, usually just kind of gridlock around here, but driving quite easily.
Together, we just have to stop doing that. But we are so lucky to have the green spaces that we have in Scotland. We're so lucky at this particular point in the curve that, you know, the advice is that we should still be able to get outside and enjoy fresh air. And we've come up with, and we'd hoped that for the caller from Good Morning
Parking Warden
programme, that there would be something positive. And we're encouraging people to go and take a mop or a broom or a pole that is over 1 metre long and go and take someone for a walk. Then you're going to be able to maintain that distance. You're going to be showing that you're taking.
So again, this is where everyone either gets on the bus or the taxis whenever they come out the train station, the Waverley train station, and it's normally just people all kind of walking across. I would never drive along this bit because it's normally just filled with people aimlessly walking across the road, not realising that it's actually a road. Up to the left, the Scots Monument, that looks like a big rocket ship. That's always kind of cool. Tourist buses, I'm thinking, not going to get a lot of work just now. So a lot of buses parked up. They sometimes are all parked up, but looking inside them just now, there's nobody in any of them at all. On a sunny blue sky day in Edinburgh, you would think there'd be some people going for a tour ride, but no. But still running.
You're still. So what about that idea, taking a mop for a walk? How does that sound?
With another person at the other end.
With another person at the other end of the mop, yeah. I should point that out. That's important. That's important. Do you think that might work?
Well, you need the other person to come with you. Well, I don't be frightened as well. Well, I think if we can get lots of people to be a bit less frightened, to be taking all the precautions of washing their hands before they come outside, making sure that, you know, people who need to self-isolate are self-isolating, but people who are still well need to maintain being well, and, you know, it would be great if we...
And again, this junction here, anytime there'd be a green man, it would be hundreds of people crossing this road here. To get to the train station or to get into Edinburgh. And the fact that there's maybe one person about to cross the road there, I would call that easily 100-fold decrease. 100 times less people than would normally be crossing the road just now.
Somebody who can help you in this country.
Lots of buses, so if you can zoom in, bus, 4 buses there. 1, 2, 3. Only 4 people on that last bus. 2 people one person upstairs, 2 people downstairs. Bus on the other side of the road going along. About 5 people on that one. That green bus, 1 person, 2 people on the ground floor of that one, ground level. The tram, I'm not seeing anybody on it at all.
Sanitizer at the entrance. No wiping down of the teller's card machines, the same at the local shop. These practices should...
There's the first person I've seen with a face mask. Face mask and headphones on. And face straight into a phone. So that's as far as we've got over here. So far, 1 person with a face mask.
To grips with the changes to our daily lives to try to deal with coronavirus. This will be a huge change in behaviour from all of us.
We have very comprehensive coverage of exactly how Scotland and the rest of the world is coping with this pandemic.
We plan to be a resource over the coming weeks, sharing information and experiences, getting guidance out there, and just company. Please don't feel that you're on your own. We're here. Keep in touch with us. We will come through this together.
Here for you.
So it certainly looks like they haven't reduced the number of buses going anywhere. Just less people on them.
Until 12 o'clock today, then Lunchtime Live will have all the latest on the coronavirus crisis as it specifically affects us here in Scotland. At 1:30, some light relief. Thank goodness for that. Breaking the news with Des Clark. A wry look back at the week's news. Janie Godley, Mark Nelson, Jay Lafferty and Bruce Devlin on the panel this week. 2 o'clock, the Friday afternoon show with Nicola and Ian. It's concentrating this afternoon on schools closures. The schools closed their doors today until later in the year. How do you keep the families entertained?
Let's see what's happening on LBC.
That there are sole traders who are having to work and perhaps are spreading the virus.
It's not just sole traders, Karen. We had a bus driver on Wednesday. A bus driver who thinks he's got it.
Oh, that's terrible.
But
this is the terrible thing. People have got to be reassured that they can stay at home and stop the spread of the virus have enough money coming in to be able to pay their bills. That's all we need to know.
And we should have known that at the beginning of this week. But if we know it by the end of the week, we'll take that as a win, won't we? Just to be clear.
Thank you very much for everything you're doing.
No,
it's really
I'm not
important.
doing anything. I'm just sitting there talking.
So this road that I'm about to go on the left to, this is called Queen Street. Now this one is where all the cars drive along because they're not allowed on Princess Street, that road back there, or George Street. Well, they are allowed on George Street, but it's not a through road. So this is where all the traffic goes along. So this is usually always gridlock. Pretty much all of Edinburgh's gridlock is a terrible, terrible infrastructure. And there's always usually roadworks being done, even though the roads are absolutely horrendous. But let's see, as I go around the corner, what's the traffic like just now? 2 cars in front of me. That's it.
Because if they don't, I dread to think what the consequences will be.
I do hope you're right. I really
Well, so do I, Caroline. I mean, it's just the hope that keeps us going, isn't it? 10:55 is the time. Brendan is in Andover. Brendan, what's going on?
So I'm currently signed off work at the moment. Both my boys were in nursery.
Right.
The nursery's now closed because of coronavirus.
Yes.
But we're still being asked to pay full fees for the foreseeable future, effectively. So although we've got to take time off work to look after the children at our own homes, we're still expected to pay the nursery what we would if we were still working.
Because if you don't, they'll go bust and there'll be no nursery to go back to when we come out the other end of this.
Exactly. And if we do,
So I mean, this is,
we can't get a place.
you know, the weirdest thing is that this is a time when we should be telling each other that we're all in this together. Because I feel sorry for the people running the nursery. I know that may not be what you want to hear today, but they're just dealing with the hand they've been dealt, and that means that they take their rubbish hand and chuck half of it at you, and you're then let. Do you see what I mean? So you need leadership at the top and at the bottom.
Insurers are all turning around and saying to these companies, we don't cover you for this.
Yeah, I mean they are. That was the big announcement at the beginning of this week. It feels like a lifetime ago from the British Association, or the Association of British Insurers, saying most companies will not have coverage for something like this, which at the time looked like a very urgent fillip to the Chancellor, but one which he is not yet heeded. Hopefully he will heed it later today. You don't have to answer these questions because I think we've got a really powerful picture of how widespread these problems are. But how long have you got financially before you really start to worry, if nothing significant
already?
shifts?
Because I didn't know if I'm at high risk because I've been signed off for chest pain, but I can't get in
time to go drop off some keys.
Because obviously the NHS is so
electric and water, because a lot of these tenants that I do checkouts for are on prepay meters.
Yes.
So when they
I do know what that's like. That's when you've got to go down the corner shop to charge up your card to even get the electricity on. And you pay more per unit than you would if you were on a direct debit.
Exactly that. And then there's that, if you're self-isolating, how does one do that? And, I mean, I did a checkout this morning and it was absolutely freezing in this house. I'm like, you know, what's happening? You know, all the boilers gone off and, okay, we'll go and get a fire. And we can't because the prepay electric meters run out as well.
It's not funny, is it? And so that's someone who is already unable to really keep up the basic, you know, that hierarchy of needs that we read about. They simply can't do it.
I mean, what does one do?
What does one do? You tell me, because I mean, I think I've quite rightly been at pains to point out that you know, just because one is in the category of landlord or landlord's agent or employer does not mean you're a baddie. That's a sort of really lazy, ludicrous, you know, daft way of looking at things. But equally, it is fair to say you're not a charity and your clients need their income from their rental properties.
Well, this is it. I think one of your callers kind of had it on the head. You need to kind of pause everything. And, you know, things like utility companies, they could just do that. I mean, I've never been into a property where it's physically been cut off before, but, you know, if these people are struggling to pay food, you know, water...
It's a de facto cut off if you haven't got enough money to charge up your card. You might as well have been cut off. It's just a little bit easier to reconnect. You don't have to get them round to look at the meter and to do their magic. Must be tough for you, is it? I mean,
yeah. Well, a lot of things. Obviously, once we're booked to do a check out, if those tenants ain't vacating, then the new tenant can't move in. If the tenant can't move in, they've already moved out of their own place. So now they're being put up in hotels while they're waiting for their property to be vacant. You've got that situation happening. So
I'm a freelance clerk, and my work comes from estate agents via landlords, obviously. But if there's no one moving in and out and everyone's renewing, I don't have a job. So essentially,
and this is the point, isn't it? This is where the domino effect, or perhaps a more effective phrase could be employed, that will describe that, you know, one falls, eventually we all fall. 11:30 is the time, and Bill Overton has your headlines.
The Chancellor's to outline a special package of measures this afternoon aimed at workers who now find their jobs at risk. Labour's demanding statutory sick pay is increased to what is a real living wage during the coronavirus outbreak. A third person's died in Wales after contracting the infection. They were aged 71 and had underlying health conditions. The Health Secretary stressing again the importance of following government social distancing advice to help curb further spread. Letters have been sent to thousands of retired doctors and nurses requesting they come back to work for the NHS. And a man's been arrested on the Isle of Man, suspected of breaking self-isolation rules. The island's brought in penalties for not self-isolating for a fortnight after arrival. It can carry a jail term or £10,000 fine. Looking at the weather, staying rather dull with the odd spot of rain around. Further north, some brighter, sunnier spells and a high of 10 degrees Celsius.
LBC. The one in Aviemore, where 12 staff were laid off yesterday by letter, but also told, as they were made aware of their immediate unemployment, they were also told that they were, of course, to lose their accommodation as well. They live in, as it were. They sleep over the shop, as we used to say. Not anymore. So jobless and homeless in the space of one letter. And I think I was reminded of this actually by the call we just took from the landlord's agent. Decent fellow. Again, I really think this is important. The effort, if things run out according to plan or according to recent events, then there'll be an awful lot of effort put into trying to persuade us to blame the wrong people for problems caused by politicians very, very soon. So don't blame landlords and landlord agents. But here is another example of somebody who clearly does deserve to be very roundly criticised, just like that hotel in Scotland. This, I imagine, will be in your newspaper tomorrow, and it comes from South Wales. This is a message from a letting agent to her landlords, or his landlords, okay? I am absolutely gobsmacked that the Prime Minister has stated that we cannot evict for the next 3 months, and it's evident that some tenants are going to use it as an excuse not to pay. We will be robustly chasing rent and doing all we can to ensure you all get paid. This is a living nightmare at the moment. I'm very concerned for both my business and your rental income. We are reviewing rents every day and have a daily list of anyone who hasn't paid. We're providing firm but gentle pressure, housing benefit advice, budgeting advice and support, and I can assure you that we will make every effort to ensure rent is paid. I will not be bowing to pressure to run the business remotely, and they will have to physically remove me from the premises in an event of any lockdown. We are working as hard as for you as we can every day, and will continue to do so. Make of that what you will, but I suspect that it will be tomorrow's Scottish hotel. Now, I've got a couple of phone lines free. My apologies, I've completely torn up the plan. We're just going to carry on with this. We have to. We've got no choice, you know. This is what we need. This is what you need. You need to be heard. This is Lisa in Chigwell. I lost my job last week over the phone while I was ill with coronavirus symptoms. It was a theatre job, so I can't blame them. And they said if I don't have a job in June, they may employ me again. I don't know how the economy will get through this, but hopefully the government will come up with something. And very annoyingly, I've lost a text from a 50-year-old taxi driver who was having a very, very tough time. And I wanted to read that out, but I've got so much coming in that it's almost impossible to keep track of it. No, I sorry. Can you send it again if you're still there? I know it was a long message. Hopefully you can just resend it, or can we try and find it? It's a fellow who's been onto his bank in tears today, 50-year-old taxi driver, with some detail on what have you. With regard to mortgage breaks and credit ratings, and the fact that the banks don't seem to have got some of the messages that the government have. We're spending most of today bemoaning the fact that the government isn't giving us the information that we need, but it seems that some of the stuff they have announced hasn't even reached the places that it needs to announce. But that statement from 10 Downing Street, once again, in response to our pleas for help for all the people we're hearing from, this is what they sent us. The government is expected to announce later today a package to help workers whose jobs and wages could be affected by the coronavirus outbreak. Can you pass the bin, please? And here it is. Well done. This is from Chris. I won't read out any No, that's not the one I wanted, sorry. It's 11:38 is the time. 0345 6060973 is the number that you need if you just want to tell me that you've already hit the buffers or you're already worried. You're not going to be comforted necessarily by what the Chancellor says later today because you've already been laid off. Dave's in Battersea. Dave, what would you like to say?
Yeah, hello. I don't live in Battersea anymore. Actually, it's been quite a few years since I lived there.
You haven't rung me. You haven't rung us for a while, then, Dave, have you?
I now live in Cornwall.
Oh, there we go.
I was a chef up until Tuesday. We were working at the weekend. Nobody came into the restaurant, which was part of the hotel. And then this weekend we were fully booked. We had Mother's Day, and by Tuesday my boss phoned me and said, "I'm really sorry," and he was genuinely upset. And
Yeah, almost all of them will be. I know I keep banging that drum, but it seems an important one of them.
And he's a nice guy.
Exactly.
I know he meant it, and he was like, "I'm really sorry, but we haven't got any. All of the bookings for next week have all cancelled. Mother's Day, he said, we're down to one table left." He said, "And I'm going to phone them and say to them, look, we're closing." He said, "I've got."
They might say to him, "Can my mother-in-law come on her own?"
Yeah. I've got a job when they reopen, but he doesn't know when that's going to be.
And in the meantime, you're up at it.
Well, I mean, my wife's a nurse, so there's an income coming in.
So yeah, just really boring stuff.
Grant, well, remember to buy stuff from Mother's Day for Karen for Sunday. I'm about to go. I'll catch you later.
Cool. Okay then.
Bye.
See ya. Bye bye.
Disappointed that it came out this week at a time when obviously everyone's attention is on the national crisis that we're currently battling with. It's really sad because it is a very, very powerful, very well researched report, and it deserves a huge amount of attention that it just hasn't had this week.
Well, we'll give you all the time you need, or at least until 1:15, to talk us through what you consider to be the key points of the 275-page report.
So, the person who has worked on this report for 2 years, a woman called Wendy Williams, she had hoped to release it in the autumn, and the timing got kind of taken out of her hands in a way because ministers and civil servants were allowed to comment on the report before publication. So it has been protracted, the process to publication. I'm not sure that I'd see a conspiracy in its publication this week, although, of course, you know, if you were Priti Patel, you might feel relieved at the speed with which it's kind of been dealt with.
There was no compulsion to publish this week, or requirement to publish this week.
No.
Staff in our schools and early year settings, and all those who are and will continue to be working flat out in our education
Still
service,
a bit busy around here.
both over the last few days and in the days
Newington
to come, to
area,
help us adapt
Nicholson
to what
Street.
is a rapidly changing situation. I think the very fact that the Deputy First Minister confirmed yesterday that for the first time in our history there will be no exams this year underlines the seriousness of the situation that we're facing. So I want to take the opportunity today, because it is so important, to remind everyone of the advice that we are asking you to follow. Reduce your social contact unless it is absolutely essential to go out. That means working from home where possible. It means staying away from crowded places like pubs, restaurants and cinemas. If you're over 70, eligible for the flu vaccine because of a health condition, or pregnant, you should take that advice particularly strongly and stay at home as much as possible. And there will be further advice published later today for pregnant women in particular. If you show symptoms of a new and persistent cough or mild fever, stay at home for 7 days. And if someone in your household is showing the symptoms, you should all stay at home for 14 days to ensure that you don't become infected. Others. And at all times, follow the advice on washing your hands, using tissues, and avoiding touching your face. Now, I know that some of the sacrifices that we are asking people to make, and they are sacrifices, we are asking people to fundamentally change the way that we live our lives, that these will become more apparent to us, and more difficult as we head into the weekend. I know that there will be some of you who might be wanting to head out to the pub for a final night out or looking forward to a meal out with friends, but my guidance to you is clear and crystal clear. Please do not do this. You must not consider this vital health advice to be merely optional. Now, let me say candidly and frankly that I know people don't like being told what to do by politicians. And in normal times, I might not blame you for not wanting to be told what to do by a politician. But please understand and believe me when I say that this is vital. It is vital for your own protection. It is vital for the protection of your loved ones, particularly if amongst those that are older or more vulnerable people. It's vital for the protection of our NHS and its ability to care for those who will need it in the weeks to come. It is vital for the protection of all of us, and it is vital to help us save lives. I want to thank all of those who have complied with this difficult advice so far. But again, to be candid, I do have a concern about younger people who I know will be disappointed not to be able to socialise with their friends over this weekend. And again, I cannot be clearer. Please do not think that this advice just applies to other people and not to you. As a young person, if you get this virus, there is no absolute guarantee that you will just have mild symptoms. But even if you have mild symptoms, you still risk passing the infection on to people who are more vulnerable. Please do not take that risk. Doing everything we can to slow down the spread of this virus now means that we will save lives and we will protect our NHS. We cannot just carry on as normal. Life right now is not normal. Now, I recognise that this guidance, the advice that we're asking people to follow, is already having a very severe impact on certain industries, and we are working and will continue to work with the UK government and others to do as much as we can to address that. There is disruption for businesses right now across the economy. This is an unimaginably difficult time for businesses and for employers and for those who work across our economy. My message to businesses, large and small, is that we know this is difficult. We know times are hard and we will do everything we can to help you. Early this morning, I chaired a Cabinet subcommittee of my economy ministers to discuss the government's economic response. We've already made £2.2 billion available through business rate support and grants. In the coming days and weeks, we will be expanding what is called a PACE system, which helps those who become unemployed into alternative jobs. And we know that there are sectors right now, the supermarket sector, who are expanding and seeking to employ more workers. We will also use our procurement systems and government contracts to keep financial support flowing to companies, and we'll be asking local government to do the same. And we're looking across our transport system and key industries to identify further actions that we can take. We've welcomed the support that the UK government has announced so far, but we are pushing them to do more to help people.
For expert analysis and all the latest information, stay with LBC.
Okay, everyone. So just now it's 3:35 on a Friday, so I'm going to start heading out of town for my last shoot, and let's see what the traffic is like on the way out of town just now. Hopefully my battery lasts for a wee bit. But so here, just coming down Grove Street, this takes you down to Haymarket, and again on a Friday this time, this is normally gridlock. Let's see what it's like as we keep on going.
Question: the what van like?
Coronavirus.
We're all in this to save lives. That's what we're doing, isn't it?
You will have questions, no doubt, and we will try and ask as many of your questions as we can to the relevant experts.
What is the health service doing to gear up now?
Tell everyone the symptoms of this.
How bad does your diabetes and your asthma have to be before you should start thinking about taking yourself off for 12 weeks?
We plan to be a resource over the coming weeks. We're here. Please keep in touch with us. We will come through this together.
Here for you, BBC Radio Scotland.
Now, if you fancy kicking back with a movie this weekend that isn't West Side Story, although you should watch that as well, but the Oscar-winning Japanese masterpiece Spirited Away has just landed on Netflix. So my kids and I sat down in the living room to do your review.
Wow, this is kind of cool. So yeah, that's Haymarket train station on the left there. This is a big tram pick-up and drop-off point here. Normally a bit more busy than this. Still a 20-mile-an-hour zone here, so gotta check that I'm not speeding, because when the roads are this. Taxi drivers, they're not getting much work. Obviously not many people coming off the train, so they're parked up. I don't think they'll be parked up with their engine running, that's for sure. Just drove past the Tesco's there, looking inside quite a few of the shelves, looking pretty quiet. On the right we've got Donaldson's school, or it was a school, that is now being turned into luxury flats. Some of them £1 million plus. Don't know if they're going to be able to sell them very well for the next while. Certainly not the prices that they're currently trying to get. Yes, it's a lovely sunny day. It's only 7 degrees Celsius, but there's no wind, so it feels like a nice day. Let's see what else. Come on, let's hear some news.
So it's about 3. I know, and the thing is, we couldn't get it anywhere.
Okay.
Reduce inflammation.
Just adverts. Okay, so Roseburn Terrace on just now. I've never driven through this like this. Even on a Sunday, it's not this quiet. Usually because all the big rugby matches or music events are happening around here. This is near Murrayfield, the giant football rugby stadium. Just last month, or maybe 2 months ago, this Rolls-Royce motor car garage on the left closed down because it couldn't afford to pay back its creditors or something like that, or its debtors. But they've got a couple cars in there. Again, I think whatever struggles they were having financially before, I think they pale in comparison to what they're going to have now. I don't think anybody is going to be buying any Rolls Royces or high-end sports cars just now.
Rather nice D in Southend says, I'm a pensioner and I knit dog coats for shelters and PDSA, etc., People's Dispensary for Sick Animals, in my spare time. If compulsory isolation comes into being, there will be a lot more cosy dogs next winter, because that is how I will pass my time, says D. Good for you. And Arnie in Islington says, I'm doing my family tree online. That's a nice idea. Doing my family tree online on ancestry.co.uk with over 500 family members. I'm going through birth and death records and adding photos. My tree is fascinating, says Arnie. That's nice. Binod is called from Denham, Middlesex. Hello.
Hi, how are you, Sheila?
I'm fine, thank you, yes. You've been isolated
for a while. Yes. We isolated ourselves for last 8 to 9 days. Me and my wife, we are both registered disabled. We are both keeping healthy. We are trying to remain positive. And for last few days, I've stopped my getting negative messages on WhatsApp, because a lot of negative messages on WhatsApp from different people about the coronavirus. And I think being positive is the first step, and that will really get you through this hardship. We are also making ourselves more comfortable with each other. We look after each other. When we were working, we never had time to spend time together like this continuously 7-8 days in a row. We spent some quality time at home. We do some breathing.
Really? Did you really need to pull out there right there? Good timing. Great timing, buddy.
And you talked there about doing meditation, garden, spending time in the garden, quality time together. Do you feel in any way that this has been an opportunity to reconnect as a couple?
I I think so. I think it's something.
Edinburgh Zoo on the right up there. Again, Sunday or Fridays after school, a lot of people might have been taking their kids there and stuff. Doors open though. There's definitely people in. So Edinburgh Zoo has not closed yet. That's oh my goodness, actually that's the point. You've got to make sure that the staff are able to go along and get all the food and bedding for the animals and clean out their things. So that's a thought. Didn't think about that. But the zoo.
This is more precious than just working all the time and running after material things.
Yeah, I mean, if we're lucky and we have a job and we have a busy life and a fulfilling life, professionally and socially, that's nice. But you can get too attached to all of that process, can't you? And lose some other things.
Now, with all these roadworks here, this would have just been completely jammed. As in, you've got bus lane on the left trying to squeeze in to this road here. This would have been on the traffic news saying traffic jams at Corstorphine. So this area that I'm coming into just now is called Corstorphine, and this would just be impossible to get through. It'd be a place that everyone would have been avoiding because it would just be gridlock and nobody able to move, because there's cars that need to go up to the right, but clearly, like on the left here, we've got a car just parked up in a really handy place there, meaning that everybody has to go into the right hand lane to get forward. So yeah,
the lack of paying of rent, what happens to the landlords? It may be that there is already help coming.
Really bad place to have a loading area. Really bad place.
Thank you. You sound like a lovely, kind man. Thank you. Bernard in Denham in Middlesex. Let's talk to Jane Wake, fitness expert. Hello, Jane.
Hello, Sheena.
Now, you have been doing for quite some time a lot of people have online classes, and so that community online already exists for you. Have people started to come in their droves and say, me too, now me?
Yes, it's definitely, everyone now wants to go online. In fact, I will be teaching the actual real classes probably for the last time tomorrow morning, because I think after that, even with social distancing in my classes and keeping everyone completely apart, I've had literally 1 or 2 people in the classes, and everyone now is going to be doing it online. So there is a lot of online availability out there for people to do, and it's just about a question of finding what's right for you, I think. And making sure that you're doing something that really is safe and is the right exercise for you.
And starting to feel like this seems like the normal kind of traffic on a quiet day, but the thing is, we're still moving. Normally, this is not a moving situation here. This is usually not moving, but yeah, able to get through town nice and fast.
I think it's important to do that. We've got a counsellor on. We're going to talk to some young people about how they're dealing with it, and I'm going to talk to a colleague who has been self-isolating just to find out how that feels and what they've been doing. Obviously, massive impact on every part of our lives. We're going to be speaking to someone from the hospitality sector in Scotland. He has a prediction of the number of job losses that have already happened and will happen, which is quite staggering. I know the First Minister Nicola Sturgeon, of course, today at lunchtime was saying people really should not be going out and socialising. They shouldn't be going to pubs. They shouldn't be going to clubs and restaurants. You know, that's absolutely understandable given the advice, but the impact on that is massive. We're going to be talking a wee bit about that. We've also got a consultant, anaesthetist, on talking about some concerns over, hygiene and levels, hand sanitizer levels in a hospital. We're going to be speaking to the hospital themselves about that. So an enormous amount happening. It's a very, very quick picture. There's, including at 5 o'clock, there will be a live statement from the Prime Minister Boris Johnson and the Chancellor. That could include some news of money to help workers who have been laid off because of this. We'll have details of that. And we've also got the jury has gone out in the Alex Salmond trial. There may or may may not be a verdict, but we'll keep you across all of that. We will, of course, have the travel and the weather and the sport. Life goes on, as you know, and we will keep you absolutely up to date. I'll be on at 4 o'clock till 6 o'clock.
My goodness, you too, Fiona, so much to get our heads around. Thank you for helping us understand all of it. Drive time with Fiona Stalker at 4 p.m. On the way next, we're going to hear from a Derry Girls super fan about why we should be catching up on this terrific and hilarious series.
One thing I'm certainly feeling just now is, throughout the days, the general level of anxiety and stress and pressure of what's going on. There's definitely a desire to have a beer every night, that's for sure. So I think after this I'm going to head off to Tesco's, see if there's anything to buy, but maybe stock up on some more beers over the weekend, just in case we're suddenly in full-blown lockdown on Monday. Anyway, there you go, that's the drive in and out of town.
Going to need to do their own housework. I think we're going to